Welcome to today's English story practice. I'm thrilled to share 3 inspiring stories that will challenge your listening skills while teaching valuable life lessons. Our first story explores modern technology and its impact on our daily lives. Listen actively and try to imagine yourself in similar situations. Alex Chen was a typical 28-year-old software engineer living in San Francisco. Every morning, he woke up to the sound of his smartphone alarm, immediately checking social media notifications before his feet even touched the floor. His daily routine revolved entirely around screens: computer monitors at work, tablet during lunch breaks, smartphone during his commute, and television until bedtime. One evening, while scrolling through endless posts about other people's perfect lives, Alex realized something disturbing. He couldn't remember the last conversation he'd had without glancing at his phone. He couldn't recall the last sunset he'd watched without photographing it for Instagram. Most shocking of all, he couldn't remember feeling genuinely present in any moment during the past month. This realization hit him like a cold shower. Alex decided to conduct a personal experiment, a complete digital detox for 7 days. No smartphone, no social media, no unnecessary internet browsing. Only essential work-related computer use would be permitted. The first day felt like withdrawal from an addiction. Alex's hand automatically reached for his phone dozens of times, finding empty pockets instead. He experienced phantom vibrations, thinking his phone was buzzing when it was safely locked in his desk drawer at home. By afternoon, he felt anxious and disconnected from the world. However, something magical began happening on the second day. Without the constant distraction of notifications, Alex noticed details he'd been missing for years. The elderly man, who always sat on the park bench during lunch, was reading poetry books. The barista at his favorite coffee shop had beautiful handwriting and drew tiny hearts in the foam. The cherry blossom trees along his street were in full bloom, creating a natural pink canopy overhead. On the third day, Alex struck up a conversation with his neighbor Maria, whom he'd only nodded to politely for 3 years. She turned out to be a retired history teacher with fascinating stories about traveling through Europe in the 1970s. They talked for 2 hours on her front porch, sharing tea and homemade cookies. By the 4th day, Alex discovered he had forgotten how much he enjoyed reading physical books. He visited the local library for the first time in a decade and borrowed 3 novels. Reading without screens before bedtime improved his sleep quality dramatically. He woke up feeling more refreshed and energetic than he had in months. The 5th and 6th days brought unexpected creativity. Without mindless scrolling to fill empty moments, Alex found himself thinking more deeply about work problems and personal goals. He started sketching in a notebook during breaks, rediscovering an artistic hobby he'd abandoned years earlier. On the 7th and final day of his experiment, Alex felt simultaneously excited to reconnect with technology and reluctant to return to his old habits. He had experienced a week of genuine human connections, creative thinking, and peaceful moments that social media could never provide. When Alex finally turned on his phone after 7 days, he was surprised by his own reaction. The hundreds of notifications that once seemed so important now appeared trivial and overwhelming. He realized that most of the urgent messages and updates had resolved themselves without his immediate attention. The digital detox experiment transformed Alex's relationship with technology permanently. He established new rules for himself: no phones during meals, no screens for the first hour after waking up, and designated technology-free hours each evening. These simple changes helped him maintain the sense of presence and connection he'd rediscovered during his week offline. Let's test your understanding. What was Alex's profession and daily routine like? What made him decide to try a digital detox? How did he feel during the first day without technology? What positive changes did he notice during the week? How did the experiment change his long-term habits? These questions help you practice identifying character development and cause and effect relationships in English narratives. Our second story takes place in a cozy cafe where people from different cultures meet to practice languages and share experiences. This story demonstrates how language learning can create unexpected friendships and broaden our perspectives about the world. The Babel Cafe was tucked away on a quiet street corner in Montreal, Canada. From the outside, it looked like any ordinary coffee shop. But inside, something extraordinary happened every Thursday evening. People from dozens of countries gathered to participate in language exchange sessions, creating a vibrant, multicultural community. Isabella Rodriguez had recently moved to Montreal from Barcelona to pursue her master's degree in environmental science. Despite studying English for many years in Spain, she felt nervous about speaking it fluently in real conversations. Her university classes were conducted in English, but academic discussions felt different from casual, everyday communication. One rainy Thursday evening, Isabella's roommate Sophie suggested they visit the Babel Cafe. "It's perfect for improving your English," Sophie explained enthusiastically. "You help someone practice Spanish, and they help you practice English. Plus, you'll meet interesting people from around the world." Isabella felt hesitant but curious. She had always been shy about making mistakes when speaking foreign languages, preferring to listen rather than participate actively in conversations. However, her desire to improve her English outweighed her nervousness. The cafe buzzed with animated conversations in multiple languages. Colorful flags from different countries decorated the walls, and small tables were arranged to encourage intimate discussions between language partners. A friendly volunteer coordinator named David welcomed newcomers and helped match conversation partners based on their language goals. David introduced Isabella to Kenji, a 25-year-old graphic designer from Tokyo, Japan, who wanted to practice Spanish before his upcoming business trip to Mexico. In exchange, he would help Isabella improve her conversational English. They found a quiet corner table and ordered coffee, café con leche for Isabella, and green tea for Kenji. The first few minutes felt awkward. Both Isabella and Kenji were polite but cautious, carefully constructing grammatically correct sentences while avoiding complex topics. Isabella spoke slowly in English, worried about her accent and verb tenses. Kenji replied in hesitant Spanish, frequently pausing to search for the right words. Gradually, however, their conversation became more natural and engaging. They discovered shared interests in photography, sustainable living, and international cuisine. Isabella described the beautiful beaches of her hometown in Catalonia, while Kenji shared stories about cherry blossom season in Japan and his grandmother's traditional tea ceremonies. As weeks passed, Isabella and Kenji became regular language exchange partners and genuine friends. Their Thursday evening conversations covered increasingly diverse topics: career ambitions, cultural differences, travel experiences, and personal challenges. Isabella's English fluency dramatically improved through these relaxed, meaningful discussions. The Language Exchange Cafe introduced Isabella to a broader international community. She met Ahmad from Syria, who taught her Arabic phrases while she helped him practice Spanish. She conversed with Marie from France about literature and philosophy, exchanging insights in both French and English. Each conversation partner brought unique perspectives and life experiences that enriched Isabella's understanding of the world. Through these interactions, Isabella discovered that language learning extended far beyond grammar rules and vocabulary memorization. Languages carried cultural values, humor styles, and ways of thinking that couldn't be learned from textbooks alone. Her Spanish directness sometimes surprised her English-speaking partners, while their indirect communication style initially confused her. Most importantly, Isabella learned that making mistakes was not embarrassing, but essential for improvement. Every mispronounced word and grammatical error became a learning opportunity rather than a source of shame. Her conversation partners appreciated her efforts and offered gentle corrections in supportive ways. 6 months later, Isabella felt completely comfortable speaking English in professional and social situations. Her thesis presentation impressed her professors, and she even started helping other Spanish speakers at the Language Exchange Cafe. The shy student who had once feared making mistakes had become a confident communicator who embraced linguistic challenges. The Babel Cafe had given Isabella much more than improved English skills. It had provided her with an international network of friends, cultural awareness, and the confidence to connect with people across language barriers. She realized that fluency wasn't about perfection. It was about effective communication and genuine human connection. Let's review this story. Why did Isabella need to improve her English? How did language exchange sessions work at the Babel Cafe? Who was Isabella's first conversation partner, and what did they discuss? What did Isabella learn about language learning beyond grammar and vocabulary? How did this experience change Isabella's confidence and perspective? These questions help you practice understanding character motivation and personal growth in English stories.
Our final story is about Daniel, a man who discovers his true passion during the most unexpected hours. Sometimes our greatest talents emerge when we follow our hearts rather than conventional expectations. Daniel Morrison worked as an accountant in a prestigious firm downtown, spending his days surrounded by spreadsheets, financial reports, and endless meetings. From the outside, his life appeared successful and stable. He earned a good salary, lived in a nice apartment, and followed a predictable routine that his family and friends admired. However, Daniel felt increasingly restless and unfulfilled. Every morning, he dragged himself to the office, wondering if this was how he wanted to spend the next 30 years of his life. Numbers and calculations had once interested him, but now they felt mechanical and meaningless. One sleepless night at 2 a.m., Daniel wandered into his kitchen feeling too anxious to return to bed. On impulse, he decided to bake bread, something he hadn't done since helping his grandmother as a child. He found basic ingredients in his pantry: flour, yeast, salt, and water. Without consulting any recipes, he relied on distant memories of his grandmother's gentle hands kneading dough. The process felt surprisingly meditative. Mixing ingredients, kneading the dough, and waiting for it to rise required patience and attention that contrasted sharply with his fast-paced work environment. As the bread baked, Daniel's small apartment filled with warm, comforting aromas that reminded him of childhood visits to his grandmother's house. The finished loaf wasn't perfect, slightly lopsided with an uneven crust, but it tasted incredible. Daniel ate warm slices with butter, feeling more satisfied than he had in months. That night, he finally fell asleep peacefully. This midnight baking session became a regular occurrence. Whenever work stress overwhelmed him, Daniel found solace in his kitchen during the quiet hours when the rest of the city slept. He experimented with different recipes: sourdough, whole wheat, cinnamon rolls, and croissants. Each success motivated him to try more challenging techniques. Daniel's colleagues began noticing changes in his demeanor. He seemed calmer, more creative, and genuinely happier, despite his demanding job. When they asked about his improved mood, Daniel shyly mentioned his new baking hobby. Soon, he was bringing fresh pastries to office meetings, delighting his coworkers with homemade treats. Encouraged by positive feedback, Daniel started sharing photos of his creations on social media. Friends and family members began requesting custom cakes for special occasions. Word spread quickly through his social network, and Daniel found himself taking on small baking projects during weekends. After 6 months of midnight baking, Daniel faced a difficult decision. His hobby had evolved into a genuine passion and potential career opportunity. A local cafe owner had tasted his pastries and offered him a position as their head baker. The salary would be significantly lower than his accounting job, but the work would align with his true interests and talents. Daniel spent weeks weighing his options. Leaving a secure, well-paying career felt risky and impractical. His family expressed concerns about financial stability and professional reputation. However, Daniel realized that financial security meant nothing if he felt miserable and unfulfilled every day. He made the courageous decision to follow his passion. Daniel submitted his resignation letter and accepted the baker position. His last day at the accounting firm was bittersweet. Colleagues wished him well, while expressing both admiration and concern about his dramatic career change. The transition wasn't easy. Daniel's income decreased substantially, and he had to adjust his lifestyle accordingly. However, he woke up each morning excited about work, rather than dreading it. Creating beautiful, delicious food that brought joy to customers felt infinitely more meaningful than analyzing financial data. 2 years later, Daniel opened his own small bakery called Midnight Flour. The shop specialized in artisanal breads and pastries, all prepared during the quiet hours when Daniel felt most creative and focused. His story inspired other people to pursue their hidden passions, proving that it's never too late to change direction and follow your heart. Let's check your understanding. What was Daniel's original profession, and how did he feel about it? How did he discover his passion for baking? How did his colleagues and social network react to his baking? What difficult decision did Daniel have to make? And what was the final outcome of his career change? This story illustrates themes of personal fulfillment versus financial security and the courage required to pursue authentic happiness.
Key vocabulary from today's stories: digital detox, taking a break from technology and screens, language exchange, practicing languages with native speakers,
career transition, changing from one profession to another. Personal fulfillment, feeling satisfied and happy with your choices. Cultural awareness, understanding different customs and perspectives. We practiced several advanced structures today. Past perfect continuous, had been missing, had been feeling. Complex conditionals, like if he felt miserable every day. Passive voice in narratives. Languages were spoken. Mistakes were made. Reported speech, like Sophie explained that it was perfect. Pay attention to these challenging sounds from our stories. The th sound in worthwhile, months, growth. Silent letters in resign, psychology, and doubt. Word stress in experiment, communication, opportunity. Choose one story that resonated with you personally. Practice retelling it in 2 to 3 minutes, focusing on the main character and their initial situation, the key challenge or turning point, how the character grew or changed, the final outcome and lesson learned. Remember, you don't need to understand every single word to comprehend the story's meaning. Focus on main ideas and overall plot development, character emotions and motivations, cause and effect relationships, and new vocabulary in context. These stories demonstrate important life principles that also apply to language learning. Persistence overcomes initial difficulties. Stepping outside your comfort zone leads to growth, and authentic practice creates lasting improvement. Keep practicing regularly. Embrace your mistakes as learning opportunities. And remember that fluency develops gradually through consistent exposure to natural English. Thank you for joining today's practice session. Your dedication to improving your English skills is admirable and will definitely lead to success.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's English practice session. I'm excited to share 3 fascinating stories with you. Each story will help you practice different aspects of English. Listen carefully and try to understand the main ideas. Don't worry if you miss some words. Focus on the overall meaning. Story. Last Tuesday morning, Sarah discovered something unusual outside her apartment door. A brown package sat quietly on her doormat, but there was no delivery notice, no return address, and definitely no explanation of how it got there. Sarah lived alone on the 3rd floor of an old building downtown. She rarely received packages, and when she did, the mailman always rang her doorbell. This package, however, appeared silently during the night like a mysterious gift from an unknown sender. She picked up the box carefully. It was surprisingly light, almost as if it contained nothing but air. The package was wrapped in plain brown paper, tied with ordinary string. Sarah shook it gently near her ear, hoping to hear some clue about its contents, but the package remained completely silent. After 10 minutes of hesitation, curiosity finally won. Sarah cut the string with kitchen scissors and slowly unwrapped the paper. Inside, she found a beautiful wooden music box, painted with tiny blue flowers. When she opened the lid, a gentle melody began to play and a small ballerina started spinning gracefully. Attached to the bottom of the music box was a small note written in elegant handwriting. For the woman who always hums while making coffee in the morning, your music brings joy to apartment 2B. A grateful neighbor. Sarah smiled widely. She had never realized that her morning routine had touched someone's heart. Sometimes, the most wonderful surprises come from the kindness of strangers who live closer than we think. Now, let's check your understanding. Where did Sarah find the package? What was unusual about this delivery? What was inside the package? Who sent the gift, and why? What lesson does this story teach us? Think about your answers. These questions help you practice understanding the main points of English stories. Our second story is about Michael, a young man preparing for the most important job interview of his life. Sometimes our worst days can lead to unexpected opportunities. Let's see what happens when everything goes wrong. Story. Michael had been preparing for this job interview for 3 weeks. The position at Data Tech Solutions was perfect for him, a junior software developer role that matched his skills and dreams exactly. He had researched the company thoroughly, practiced common interview questions, and even bought a new suit for the occasion. The interview was scheduled for 10 a.m. on a Thursday morning. Michael set 3 different alarms to ensure he wouldn't oversleep. His plan was simple: wake up at 7 a.m., have breakfast, review his notes one final time, and arrive at the office by 9:45 a.m. However, nothing went according to plan that morning. First, all 3 of his alarms failed to ring because of a power outage during the night. Michael woke up naturally at 9:15 a.m., feeling confused and panicked. He had exactly 45 minutes to get ready and travel across the city. He jumped out of bed, took the fastest shower of his life, and put on his new suit. While rushing to make coffee, he accidentally spilled it all over his white shirt. With no time to change, he grabbed a sweater to cover the stain. The subway was delayed due to technical problems. Michael waited nervously on the platform, checking his watch every 30 seconds. When the train finally arrived, it was so crowded that he could barely breathe. During the journey, someone stepped on his foot so hard that his shoe broke. Michael arrived at Data Tech Solutions at 10:35 a.m., 35 minutes late. He was sweating, limping slightly, and his hair looked like he had been in a windstorm. The receptionist looked at him with surprise and concern. "I'm here for the interview with Mr. Johnson," Michael said, trying to sound professional despite his appearance. "Oh dear," the receptionist replied kindly. "Mr. Johnson had to leave for an emergency meeting, but don't worry, he asked me to reschedule you for tomorrow at the same time." Michael felt relieved but embarrassed. "I'm so sorry about being late. Everything went wrong this morning." The receptionist smiled warmly. "Actually, Mr. Johnson will appreciate your determination. Most people would have given up and gone home. The fact that you still came shows real character." The next day, Michael arrived 15 minutes early, perfectly dressed and well prepared. During the interview, Mr. Johnson mentioned the previous day's incident. He said, "I heard about yesterday's adventure. Tell me, how do you handle stress and unexpected problems?" Michael answered honestly about his experience, explaining how he had tried to solve each problem as it occurred. Mr. Johnson was impressed by his resilience and problem-solving attitude. 2 days later, Michael received a call offering him the job. Sometimes, our worst moments reveal our best qualities. Let's review this story. What job was Michael applying for? What went wrong on the morning of his interview? How late was Michael for his interview? Why couldn't he meet with Mr. Johnson that day? How did his difficult experience actually help him get the job? These questions help you practice identifying cause and effect in English stories.
Our final story is about Emma, a city resident who discovers the power of bringing people together. This story shows how small actions can create big changes in our communities. Emma had lived in the same neighborhood for 5 years, but she barely knew her neighbors. Everyone seemed too busy to stop and chat. People hurried past each other on the sidewalks, focused on their phones or their daily routines. The sense of community that Emma remembered from her childhood seemed to have disappeared completely. The empty lot next to Emma's apartment building had been unused for as long as anyone could remember. It was filled with weeds, old newspapers, and forgotten garbage. City officials had discussed various development plans over the years, but nothing ever happened. The lot remained a sad, neglected space that everyone ignored. One spring morning, Emma decided she had seen enough. She had recently read an article about community gardens and their positive effects on neighborhoods. The idea excited her. Imagine fresh vegetables, beautiful flowers, and a place where neighbors could actually meet each other. Emma spent her weekend researching community garden projects online. She learned about soil preparation, plant selection, and the legal requirements for using public land. The process seemed complicated, but Emma felt determined to try. Her first step was to contact the city council. After several phone calls and emails, she discovered that the lot was indeed available for community use. The application process would take time, but the city officials seemed supportive of her idea. While waiting for official approval, Emma decided to talk to her neighbors about the project. She printed simple flyers explaining her vision and slipped them under apartment doors throughout the building. The flyer read, "Let's create something beautiful together. Community garden meeting, Saturday, 2 p.m., building lobby." Emma worried that nobody would come to the meeting. Saturday afternoon arrived, and she waited nervously in the lobby with homemade cookies and printed information about community gardens. At exactly 2 p.m., Mrs. Chen from apartment 4B appeared, followed by the Martinez family from the second floor. Slowly, more neighbors arrived. By 2:15 p.m., 15 people had gathered, more than Emma had dared to hope for. There was old Mr. Peterson, who had been a farmer before moving to the city. Young Lisa brought her 2 children who were excited about the possibility of growing their own tomatoes. Even grumpy Mr. Williams, who usually complained about noise, seemed interested in the project. The meeting lasted 2 hours. Everyone contributed ideas and offered to help with different aspects of the garden. Mrs. Chen volunteered to organize work schedules. The Martinez family offered to provide tools from their hardware store. Mr. Peterson became the unofficial garden advisor, sharing his farming knowledge with enthusiasm. 3 months later, the empty lot had been transformed into a thriving community garden. Neat rows of vegetables grew alongside colorful flower beds. A small seating area with recycled benches provided a place for neighbors to rest and chat. Children played safely while their parents tended to their plants. The garden became more than just a place to grow food. It became the heart of the neighborhood. People who had never spoken before now exchanged recipes and gardening tips. Saturday mornings became social events, with neighbors working together and sharing coffee. During harvest time, everyone contributed to community meals featuring the garden's produce. Emma discovered that creating change wasn't about having special skills or unlimited resources. It was about having an idea, taking the first step, and inviting others to join the journey. The garden taught the entire neighborhood that when people work together toward a common goal, remarkable things can happen. 1 year later, the community garden had inspired similar projects in 3 other neighborhoods.
Emma had accidentally started a movement that brought people together across the entire city.
Let's check your understanding of this final story. What problem did Emma notice in her neighborhood? How did she get permission to use the empty lot? What happened at the first community meeting? How did the garden change the neighborhood? What larger impact did Emma's project have? This story demonstrates how individual initiative can create positive community change. Today's stories included many useful intermediate level words and phrases. Mysterious package, something unknown and intriguing. Job interview disaster, when everything goes wrong during an important meeting. Community garden project, neighbors working together to create something positive. Determination and resilience, not giving up when facing difficulties. Taking initiative, being the first person to start something important. We practiced several important grammar structures. Past tense narrative forms. Sarah discovered. Michael had been preparing. Past continuous for background actions, while rushing to make coffee. Past perfect for completed actions before the main story. Had researched the company. Conditional phrases. If you miss some words. When people work together. Try retelling one of these stories in your own words. Start with the main events, then add details. This exercise helps you practice using past tenses naturally and improves your storytelling skills in English. Final encouragement. Remember, improving your English fluency takes time and consistent practice. These stories provide natural examples of how English speakers use the language in real situations. Keep practicing regularly and don't worry about making mistakes. They're part of the learning process. Thank you for joining today's practice session. See you next time for more English stories and conversation practice.
Welcome to English Excellence Mastery, the distinguished podcast for advanced English learners pursuing exceptional fluency through intellectually stimulating narratives that explore cutting-edge innovation, organizational transformation, and strategic excellence in contemporary global contexts. I'm your host, Professor Margaret Thompson, and today we're examining 3 extraordinary stories that demonstrate how visionary professionals navigate unprecedented challenges while pioneering solutions that reshape entire industries and societal paradigms. This episode, Innovation and Transformation Excellence, investigates how exceptional leaders synthesize technological expertise, organizational psychology, and strategic foresight to create sustainable innovations that transcend traditional boundaries between disciplines, markets, and cultural contexts. Each narrative has been carefully constructed to challenge B2 and C1 level learners with sophisticated lexical choices, complex syntactic patterns, and nuanced conceptual frameworks that mirror the communication demands of elite professional environments. Today's explorations will immerse you in the specialized discourse of financial technology disruption, educational innovation leadership, and urban sustainability transformation. You'll encounter advanced modal constructions, sophisticated reported speech patterns, complex participial structures, and the kind of analytical precision that characterizes expert-level communication in academic, consulting, and executive contexts. We'll meet Dr. Cele Kim, a fintech innovator whose blockchain-based financial inclusion platform democratizes banking access for underserved populations while navigating regulatory complexity and scalability challenges. We'll follow Professor David Martinez, an educational transformation specialist whose adaptive learning ecosystem revolutionizes higher education delivery through personalized pedagogy and competency-based assessment frameworks. Finally, we'll observe Dr. Elena Petrov, an urban sustainability architect whose integrated smart city initiatives optimize resource utilization while enhancing quality of life through data-driven environmental management. Each narrative incorporates sophisticated professional dynamics that require you to decode implicit organizational relationships, understand complex regulatory environments, and appreciate the strategic considerations that inform decision-making in rapidly evolving technological and social landscapes. These analytical competencies prove indispensable for excelling in graduate research, contributing substantively to policy discussions, and establishing thought leadership in competitive international markets. Dr. Cele Kim had established herself as a leading researcher in financial technology when she recognized that traditional banking systems were systematically excluding approximately 1.7 billion people worldwide from accessing basic financial services, perpetuating cycles of poverty and limiting economic mobility in developing regions. Her revolutionary blockchain-based platform would ultimately challenge fundamental assumptions about financial infrastructure while navigating the complex intersection of technological innovation, regulatory compliance, and social impact measurement. The inspiration for Cele's transformative approach emerged from her field research in rural Kenya, where she observed that despite widespread mobile phone adoption, existing digital payment systems required bank account connections that remained inaccessible to populations lacking formal identification, stable addresses, or minimum deposit requirements that banks imposed to ensure profitability. Cele's breakthrough insight involved recognizing that blockchain technology could enable the creation of decentralized financial networks that operated independently of traditional banking infrastructure, while providing the security, transparency, and scalability necessary for serving large populations in resource-constrained environments. Her platform architecture leveraged distributed ledger technology to create digital identity frameworks that could verify user credentials through biometric authentication, community validation, and transaction history analysis, rather than relying on conventional documentation that many unbanked populations couldn't obtain or maintain. The financial services ecosystem she envisioned would provide not merely digital payment capabilities, but comprehensive financial inclusion tools, micro-savings accounts with competitive interest rates, peer-to-peer lending networks that utilize social capital for credit assessment, insurance products tailored to informal economy workers, and financial literacy programs delivered through gamified mobile applications. Implementation challenges proved multifaceted and technically demanding. Cele's team had to develop blockchain protocols that could function efficiently on low-end smartphones with intermittent internet connectivity, while ensuring transaction processing speeds that could support daily commerce in cash-intensive economies. Regulatory navigation required unprecedented coordination across multiple jurisdictions with varying financial services laws, data protection requirements, and blockchain governance frameworks. Cele engaged with central banks, financial regulators, and international development organizations to establish compliance pathways that would enable legal operation while preserving the decentralized characteristics essential to her platform's value proposition. The social impact measurement component demanded sophisticated methodologies for assessing financial inclusion effectiveness beyond traditional metrics like transaction volume or user adoption rates. Cele collaborated with academic researchers to develop evaluation frameworks that could capture improvements in economic resilience, household stability, and long-term wealth accumulation among platform users. Cultural adaptation emerged as equally critical as technical development. Cele's team conducted extensive ethnographic research to understand how different communities conceptualize financial relationships, risk management, and technology adoption, ensuring that her platform's user interface and service delivery models aligned with local practices and preferences. The pilot implementation in 3 countries, Kenya, Bangladesh, and Peru, demonstrated remarkable validation of Cele's approach. Within 18 months, the platform had facilitated over $50 million in transactions, enabled 250,000 previously unbanked individuals to access financial services, and achieved a 94% user retention rate that indicated genuine utility rather than mere novelty-driven adoption. Independent impact assessments revealed that platform users experienced 23% higher income stability, 31% increased savings rates, and 18% greater investment in education and healthcare compared to control groups in similar communities without access to Cele's financial inclusion tools. The success attracted attention from major international development organizations, leading to partnerships with the World Bank, Gates Foundation, and United Nations Capital Development Fund that would enable platform scaling across 20 additional countries over the subsequent 3 years. Cele's innovation influenced global policy discussions about financial inclusion strategies and demonstrated how technological disruption could serve social development objectives when designed with sophisticated understanding of local contexts, regulatory requirements, and community needs. Her transformation from academic researcher to social entrepreneur illustrated how advanced technical expertise could be leveraged to address systemic inequities when combined with interdisciplinary collaboration, cultural sensitivity, and commitment to sustainable impact measurement. The platform's success established new paradigms for technology-enabled development that prioritized community empowerment over external dependency, demonstrating that financial inclusion could be achieved through decentralized innovations that strengthened rather than bypassed local economic ecosystems. Key vocabulary and expressions: systematically excluding, deliberately keeping out through organized processes, perpetuating cycles, continuing patterns that keep problems going, economic mobility, ability to improve one's financial situation, decentralized financial networks, banking systems not controlled by single institutions, resource-constrained environments, places with limited money, technology, or infrastructure, distributed ledger technology, blockchain systems that spread information across multiple computers, biometric authentication, using physical characteristics like fingerprints for identity verification, unbanked populations, people without access to traditional banking services, peer-to-peer lending, individuals lending money directly to each other, social capital, relationships and networks that provide economic value, gamified mobile applications, apps that use game-like features to engage users, intermittent internet connectivity, irregular or unreliable internet access, cash-intensive economies, societies where most transactions use physical money, unprecedented coordination, cooperation never achieved before, value proposition, benefits offered by a product or service, ethnographic research, studying how people live and behave in their communities, user retention rate, percentage of people who continue using a service over time. Professor David Martinez had spent 15 years researching pedagogical innovation when the convergence of artificial intelligence capabilities, neuroscience insights, and evolving workforce demands created an unprecedented opportunity to fundamentally redesign higher education delivery through personalized learning architectures that could adapt in real time to individual cognitive patterns, learning preferences, and career trajectory goals. The catalyst for David's transformative vision emerged from his analysis of traditional university education's persistent inefficiencies. Standardized curricula that ignored cognitive diversity, assessment methods that prioritized memorization over critical thinking, and institutional structures that remained largely unchanged despite dramatic shifts in knowledge creation, information accessibility, and professional skill requirements. David's revolutionary approach involved developing an adaptive learning ecosystem that combined AI-powered content curation, neuroscience-informed pedagogical strategies, and competency-based progression frameworks to create individualized educational experiences that could optimize learning outcomes while reducing time to competency for diverse student populations. The technological infrastructure leveraged machine learning algorithms that analyzed student engagement patterns, comprehension rates, and knowledge retention metrics to dynamically adjust content difficulty, presentation modalities, and pacing schedules. This personalization extended beyond simple content recommendation to include learning pathway optimization that considered individual career goals, cognitive strengths, and preferred learning styles. The pedagogical framework incorporated insights from cognitive neuroscience about how different brains process information, enabling the system to present concepts through multiple sensory channels, vary repetition intervals based on individual memory consolidation patterns, and provide targeted interventions when learning obstacles were detected through behavioral analytics. Assessment transformation represented perhaps the most radical departure from traditional academic models. David's system replaced standardized examinations with continuous competency demonstration through project-based evaluations, peer assessment protocols, and real-world application scenarios that measured practical skill development rather than theoretical knowledge recall. Implementation required unprecedented collaboration between technologists, neuroscientists, subject matter experts, and institutional administrators who had to reconcile innovative approaches with accreditation requirements, faculty training needs, and student expectation management in environments resistant to educational disruption. Culture change management proved as challenging as technical development. David navigated faculty concerns about technology replacing human instruction, student anxiety about unfamiliar learning formats, and administrative resistance to assessment methods that complicated traditional grading and transcript systems. The pilot program at 3 universities demonstrated extraordinary effectiveness across diverse student populations. Participants achieved learning objectives 34% faster than traditional students, demonstrated 28% higher knowledge retention rates 6 months post-graduation, and reported 41% greater satisfaction with their educational experience. Particularly significant were outcome improvements among traditionally underperforming student demographics. first-generation college students, non-native English speakers, and students with learning differences showed disproportionate benefits from personalized learning approaches that accommodated their specific needs and challenged deficit-based assumptions about academic potential. Employer feedback revealed that graduates from David's adaptive learning programs demonstrated superior problem-solving abilities, faster skill acquisition rates, and better adaptability to changing workplace requirements, validating the system's focus on competency development over content consumption. The success attracted interest from educational technology companies, prompting David to establish a social enterprise that could scale his innovations while preserving their pedagogical integrity and accessibility for diverse institutional contexts and student populations. David's transformation of higher education influenced policy discussions about educational accreditation, competency-based credentials, and the role of artificial intelligence in learning environments, establishing new frameworks for evaluating educational effectiveness and student achievement. His work demonstrated that educational innovation could simultaneously improve learning outcomes and increase access when designed with sophisticated understanding of cognitive diversity, technological capabilities, and institutional change management requirements. Key vocabulary and expressions. Pedagogical innovation means new methods and approaches to teaching. Cognitive patterns refers to the ways individual brains process information. Learning preferences are how different people learn best. Career trajectory goals are planned professional development paths. Cognitive diversity is the differences in how people think and process information. Knowledge creation is the process of developing new understanding and insights. Information accessibility is the ease of finding and using information. Adaptive learning ecosystems are educational environments that change based on individual needs. Content curation is selecting and organizing learning materials. Competency-based progression is advancing based on demonstrated skills rather than time spent. Learning pathway optimization is finding the best route for each person to learn. Sensory channels are different ways information enters the brain, visual, auditory, etc. Memory consolidation patterns is how individual brains store and organize information. Behavioral analytics is studying how people act to understand their learning. Continuous competency demonstration is ongoing proof of skills rather than one-time tests. Accreditation requirements are official standards educational institutions must meet. Deficit-based assumptions are negative beliefs about student abilities. Social enterprise is a business designed to solve social problems while making money. Dr. Elena Petrov had dedicated 12 years to urban planning research when she recognized that cities worldwide were failing to address the interconnected challenges of resource depletion, environmental degradation, and quality of life deterioration through fragmented approaches that treated transportation, energy, waste management, and social services as isolated systems rather than integrated components of urban ecosystems requiring holistic optimization strategies. Elena's revolutionary smart city framework synthesized Internet of Things technologies, predictive analytics, and participatory governance models to create adaptive urban management systems that could optimize resource utilization while enhancing livability through data-driven decision-making processes that prioritized both environmental sustainability and social equity. The conceptual breakthrough involved recognizing that urban sustainability required simultaneously addressing infrastructure efficiency, environmental impact, and social outcomes through integrated systems that could adapt dynamically to changing conditions while maintaining democratic accountability and community involvement in city management decisions. Her technological architecture incorporated sensor networks that monitored air quality, traffic patterns, energy consumption, waste generation, and public space utilization in real time, feeding data into machine learning algorithms that could predict usage patterns, identify opportunities, and recommend policy interventions to improve urban performance across multiple dimensions. The governance innovation involved developing digital platforms that enabled continuous citizen engagement in urban planning decisions through participatory budgeting processes, real-time feedback mechanisms, and collaborative problem-solving initiatives that leverage collective intelligence while maintaining transparent decision-making processes. Environmental optimization focused on creating circular resource flows within urban systems, wastewater treatment facilities that generated renewable energy, urban agriculture networks that utilized organic waste for food production, and transportation systems that reduced emissions while improving accessibility for all socioeconomic groups. Implementation challenges required coordination across multiple city departments, technology vendors, and community organizations, while navigating complex procurement processes, data privacy regulations, and political dynamics that often resisted technological innovation or citizen empowerment initiatives. The pilot implementation in Barcelona demonstrated remarkable effectiveness across sustainability metrics. Energy consumption decreased by 22%. Waste diversion from landfills increased by 31%. Air quality improved by 18%, and citizen satisfaction with city services increased by 29%, while reducing municipal operating costs by 12%. The success influenced global urban policy discussions and established Elena as a leading expert in smart city development, leading to consulting opportunities with cities across 5 continents seeking to implement similar integrated sustainability approaches. Elena's work demonstrated that urban sustainability could be achieved through technological innovation when combined with participatory governance and systems thinking that addressed interconnected challenges through holistic rather than fragmented approaches. Today's narratives have exemplified the sophisticated analytical and communication competencies required for driving transformative innovation in complex global environments. Through Sarah's financial inclusion revolution, David's educational transformation architecture, and Elena's urban sustainability vision, we've explored how exceptional professionals integrate technological expertise with systems thinking, cultural intelligence, and stakeholder management to create solutions that transcend traditional disciplinary and organizational boundaries. These stories demonstrate the advanced linguistic proficiency necessary for operating effectively in elite international contexts, where nuanced communication, strategic thinking, and cultural sensitivity determine professional impact and influence. Each narrative employed sophisticated vocabulary that enables precise articulation of complex concepts, advanced grammatical structures that accommodate multiple perspectives and conditional scenarios, and the kind of analytical discourse essential for thought leadership. The linguistic sophistication evident throughout these stories reflects the communication demands facing leaders who must synthesize technical innovation with social impact, navigate regulatory complexity while maintaining operational efficiency, and balance stakeholder interests while pursuing transformative objectives that require long-term vision and strategic patience. For continued advancement toward mastery-level proficiency, focus on analyzing how advanced English enables nuanced discussion of innovation frameworks and transformation strategies. Practice articulating complex technological and social challenges using sophisticated analytical vocabulary. And develop sensitivity to the cultural and regulatory contexts that inform strategic decision-making in global innovation environments. These narratives remind us that professional excellence at the highest levels require not only technical expertise, but also sophisticated communication abilities that enable collaborative innovation, stakeholder alignment, and the kind of strategic thinking that addresses complex challenges through sustainable, scalable, and socially beneficial solutions. Thank you for joining English Excellence Mastery. Continue developing your advanced communication capabilities through engagement with complex innovation challenges that prepare you for leadership roles in our rapidly evolving global economy.